Okay, so today Corey and I are going to be reviewing Words of Radiance Book 2 in the Stormlight Archive. I guess it'll be more like just a really long-form discussion.
Yeah, discussion.
We've already filmed this.
Yep.
Then I deleted it.
Things happened.
Okay, so let's do it. So the book starts out with already making connections with Yesna telling Challan that she has her betrothed to Adeline, and Challan's thrilled about it because of all the benefits that gives her as well.
Right.
And then, you know, things go down on the boat with Yesna.
Right.
So the thing is that book 1, even though there's so much that happens in book 1, it's also such a ground-laying book. And having people start connecting right off is so satisfying to me. And I think that's why this was my favorite book of the 3. The first time I read through these 3 books is because I love these characters. I love their dynamics. And having them finally connect is...
Because the band gets together.
So satisfying. Yes. Mm-hmm. And, well, these are characters that I'm really invested in, too.
Yeah.
And now that they're connecting, and plus, too, when they do connect, they don't fit. It's just, it's so messy at first, which is so much fun to read.
Yeah, that's how I was. Kind of the first time going through is I was glad to get to see Caledon finally arrive back at the position where he should be in, not as a slave.
Right, like we saw him at the beginning of book 1.
Yeah, and all throughout, really, as a slave, as a bridgeman. And then so it's like, finally, we're seeing you get to where your potential is. Like, you should be at this level. You shouldn't be down here. So...
But going through 1,000 pages of him in this, like, down and out position and then rising up is so much more satisfying than him being in that position the whole time.
Absolutely.
So even though Sanderson takes he takes his time with his stories, all that time we spend just makes it that much more satisfying.
Yeah. And having read through the whole series and now I'm on a reread, I appreciate that more, actually. Like, I look back to book 1 with more fondness now than I did even reading through it the first time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so, I don't know.
Because I remember the first time I read through it, and I was still relatively new to high epic fantasy the first time I read through the Stormlight Archive. You as well.
No.
But I just remember the first time I read through it, I was like, okay, I'm interested, but let's go. And the second time, I'm enjoying how much time he's taking.
Yeah.
Much like my first and second read of The Lord of the Rings.
Okay. It's just way different than Mistborn, which is what I was coming off of. So it's different, but it's good. It's good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So talking about those connections, we're going to go through them. Caledon and Adeline. Man, it was so weird for me because I know them as they are. So going back and seeing them absolutely hate each other is so much fun.
I can't remember a lot of Oathbringer as much as I did the first 2 books.
Yeah, me either. But we can't talk about Oathbringer in this anyway.
Exactly, but I just remember them as how they are in this book. That's my idea of them.
Yeah, Oathbringer, my memory is so fuzzy on that one,
Yeah.
so I'm excited to reread it. And if I give you an order, I'll comply with any reasonable request, Bright Lord. If you wish for someone to fetch you tea between bouts, you'll have to send someone else. There should be plenty here willing to lick your heels. Oh my goodness, the way Caledon talks to Adeline.
The audacity. In which he speaks to a freaking high prince and a high prince's heir.
Oh my goodness. And he's only just now gotten this really prestigious title, especially for someone in his position, and instead of being like, okay, maybe I should keep this spot, he's just like, nope.
He is team
Can't
NF.
be bothered. So then Adeline's response is, I owe you my life, Adeline growled, as if it hurt him to say the words. That's the only reason I haven't thrown you out a window. And then down a little bit, great, I'll keep you alive, Bright Lord, Caledon said, pushing aside the finger. That's my place. I just, like... Caledon, we talked about this the first time we recorded this. Caledon is a person of duty, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is right, what is correct, he's honor bound, he's duty bound, right?
He's like what Dalinar said. He is the ideal soldier that someone wants. Soldier, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
He's the ideal soldier that a general or a leader would want.
Yeah.
Like he is. This is my duty. Like this
Regardless
is the most important
of how
thing.
he feels about the individual, he does what he's supposed to. But it's also a factor of protecting his men, because he and his men have been elevated far beyond what they could have imagined in the first book. And he wants to keep this place to protect his men and to keep them cared for as much as anything else.
Honestly, as much of a hero complex that he has sometimes, and sometimes it gets a little ridiculous maybe, but that being said, if I was in the military or a soldier or something and he was my squad leader, team leader, platoon leader, whatever, that is the ideal person you would want to have over you, because he genuinely cares about his men.
Yeah.
And having served in the military, I can tell you that you can definitely tell the leaders who genuinely care, and it's like, I want to be under you. I want to be under you. Like,
did you have someone like Caledon as a leader?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like that was genuinely just wanted to look out for his team's well-being, his squad's well-being.
Like a Winters.
Yeah, exactly. So as much as the hero complex sometimes bothers me, like if you're serving in a war or something like that, that's the person you want in charge of you.
Also, we were saying that it's really disappointing that we get so little of Bridge 4 in book 2.
Yeah.
Which it's understandable. We're shifting what the focus is, and we do still get some of them, but I missed them.
Yeah, I mean, like you do get...
You get good scenes.
It's just not, book 1 was building that that camaraderie, that whole bond of brothers, and then book 2 is where you're seeing them, now acting out, going to their, well, not full potential, but getting to that full potential. So yeah, that's some of the beauty of book 1 is that you get to really bond with Bridge 4, and that's where they become, legends. And yeah, I mean, you don't get as much of that in book 2, but you still get to see. It is satisfying to see people like Tef and Dre and Scar and, well, to a lesser extent, Moash kind of go into that role of, I don't know how to say it.
They've raised up. Like, they've gained their confidence. They've gained their ability. They're one team instead of, like, a bunch of different people trying to go about their own agendas. Okay, so let's move on to Caledon and Challan, because they don't fit right either. A horn eater, the man said, leaning down, inspecting Shallan's red hair. Wearing a Vorin dress? Rock would have a fit. So that's the first thing that Caledon says to Challan. And then we go down a little bit. I am offend, Challan yelled. Very offend. No apologize. Boots! And I'm skipping lines here, but those are her, when she's impersonating a horn eater. What are they called? Horn eaters? What's their actual name?
Unkalakis?
Unkalakis.
Something like that.
I think that's right. Yeah, I love this whole scene. She steals his boots, and Caledon's just like sputtering, has no idea how to handle this situation.
Can I read the horn eater parts?
Yeah, do it. Well,
You insult, Challan declared, stepping forward, pointing at him. Stormfather, those horses were enormous. I will tell all who are to listen. When arriving, I will say, Colin is stealer of boots and taker of women's virtue.
Caledon sputtered. Virtue?
Virtue?
Why'd you make her a man?
Because she's doing she's doing the horn eater thing.
Did she sound like a man in the audiobook?
Yeah. Kate Redding goes to a lower thing, like, she does the whole, like, dopey, Colin is stealer of boots. That's what she does.
Oh, yeah. So then she steals his boots in that moment of confusion and chaos, only to then give them back to him later, but she's replaced the souls.
Yep. And Caledon's irritated at it.
I love it. I love how much these characters don't fit, and absolutely great against each other for so long. However, characters that do fit right off, Challan and Adeline. So Challan and Adeline, they start off with instant attraction, right? Just he hot, she hot, let's date. Yeah. Which is significantly less satisfying of a beginning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's supposed to be written like that, but I mean,
sure.
Caledon and Challan was meet cute, and Challan and Adeline are just like, oh, he's so attractive, and she's beautiful. Like, It's like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, but it does build up really well when they have their first date and and he's telling his brave story and she thinks to herself, I know what I should ask next, but instead she asks him how he poops.
Yep.
In his shard plate. And he's like, well then what?
Yeah.
I love that scene. And then he goes on to actually explain it to her and he's like, Adeline Challan, prince of such and such, have shat in my shard plate on purpose.
On purpose.
3 times.
3 times. Yeah.
Yeah, and then their next date, or one of their next dates, when they are watching the high storm. And
that
she's
is
like,
the same date.
No, it's not. It's a different date.
That's the same date.
Really?
Yep. So they go to the restaurant and they're eating, but then they go out to the balcony and it's the trend. Everybody goes out to the balcony to watch it come and then they go back in and they shut the doors.
Huh. I thought they were 2 different dates.
It's the same date.
All right. So anyway, and then she's like, 6 seconds. We could have stayed out there 6 seconds longer. So I love that because she's trying to be what she's supposed to be, but she can't help herself to be who she actually is. And who she actually is what ends up making Adeline actually be interested in her, despite still having some of his old habits, watching the waitress's backside as she leaves, and Challan realizes he doesn't even know he's done anything wrong because he's just like, so, what should we order? But I really ended up liking them together a lot because they do have really good chemistry, and you can see that Adeline, despite his past history with women, is genuinely trying to have a real relationship with this girl that is someone that he's truly interested in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. So this is a scene that you really liked that meant a lot to you.
Oh, is this the scene?
Caledon knelt beside the corpse, rolled it over, and found it weeping. I'm sorry, Haber said, overcome with emotion and barely able to speak. I'm sorry, Caledon. Haber, Caledon said, you're alive. Then he noticed that the legs of Haber's uniform had been sliced through at mid-thigh. Beneath the fabric, Haber's legs were darkened and gray, dead, as Caledon's arm had been. I didn't even see them, Haber said. He cut me down, then stabbed Beld straight through. I listened to you fighting. I thought you'd all died. It's all right, Caledon said. You're all right. I can't feel my legs, Haber said. They're gone. I'm no soldier anymore, sir. I'm useless now. No, Caledon said firmly. You're still Bridge 4. You're always Bridge 4. He forced himself to smile. We'll just have Rock teach you how to cook. How are you with stew? Awful, sir, Haber said. I can burn broth. Then you'll fit right in with most military cooks. Come on, let's get you back to the others. Caledon strained, getting his arms under Haber, trying to lift him. His body would have none of it. He let out an involuntary groan, pulling Haber back down. It's all right, sir, Haber said. No, Caledon said, sucking in the light from one of his spheres in the lamp. It's not. He heaved again, lifting Haber, and carried him back towards the others.
So, that scene got me, I was tearing up as I was listening to it because, well, first of all, I was listening to it because, any true Alethi man would, I don't read books.
Yeah, he does not like the act of reading.
I like the book to be read to me. But anyway, Kramer's performance on that, in general, is just amazing and the best ever. But that scene in particular really was so great and embodied the emotion that was happening. And that is so real that a soldier was wounded or cut down, and instead of fearing for his own life or being worried about himself, he was sorry. Mm-hmm. He felt guilty that he had let his brothers down, that he had failed. And that was the most important thing to him. Mm-hmm. That is something that is just goes beyond if you've been in the military or maybe served in a war of some sort, you develop a bond or a kinship with your brothers, and that's like the most important thing to you is to not let your brothers in arms down above your own life even. And it's so real. It's such a real emotion, and there have been, real accounts of people in World War II, for example, that have exact same thing. They get shot, they're wounded, and they can't fight, and they're apologizing profusely to their buddies in the middle of a firefight
Yeah.
that they messed up and got shot. Like, instead of worrying about if they're going to be okay or not. It's just such a real thing. And as someone who has served in the military, thankfully never in a situation where that sort of thing was happening, but I appreciate that sort of level, the depiction of emotion and stuff, and like kudos to Sanderson for that good writing. It's just something small to me that just will get me emotional every time.
Yeah, definitely. Following that is the scene with Challan killing Tin. And that's another scene that you loved.
Yeah, so just once again, the emotion and the terror that Challan, Challan turns into this sort of visceral, like angry, evil thing all of a sudden because she's been pushed to her point. And but once again, Kate Redding, listening to it, did an excellent job of making it terrifying as she transforms into this like monster almost.
Yeah. I enjoyed that scene with Challan, but I feel like it hit you a lot harder, and maybe that's because you were listening to the audiobook, so it was like such a performance.
Yeah, because she just growls like it's this visceral, I told you, like it was like, oh my gosh, I'm scared. Like, ugh. But it was almost over, it was overdue because Tin had made these grand assumptions about her. Like, you have had it easy, and little does she know, she's like the things that Challan has experienced.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, horrifying. So
now we're at the point where Adeline is challenging, what's his name, Relin?
Relis, I think.
Relis? Adeline's challenging this guy to the duel, right? Or the arena thingy.
It's a duel.
And he says, you can bring whoever you want to face me. And Adeline doesn't word it well. So Home Slice brings three people.
Yeah.
4 total. So, and Adeline has no one else, right? So it's him against 4. And Adeline's being pummeled. This is one of my favorite scenes in the book.
He's getting just beat on.
And he realizes, I'm either not coming out of this alive, or I'm leaving crippled.
Yep.
There's no other option here. That's their goal. And it doesn't matter how many times he says, I yield, the
high judge.
Referee, yeah. She
know the terms.
She has been paid off. She's gonna let it happen. So then we have Dalinar he doesn't have a shard plate, he doesn't have a shard blade.
And Elhokar wouldn't let him go down.
So he's trying to rally people. And, oh man. Oh, right. So Renarin joins the fight.
Right. Poor
Renarin.
Well, sweet Renarin, yes.
Sweet Renarin.
We'll go sweet Renarin.
Oh, Renarin. So it's not going well. Thankfully, the guys...
Does not go well.
Thankfully, the guys like Renarin. So,
or pity him, I think is more like it.
So they're not pummeling him like they are Adeline. So Dalinar is trying to rally his men, as I said. My sons fight alone. There are shard bearers among you. Is there no one who will fight with them? Skip down a little bit. What happened to us? Dalinar said. Where is our honor? Honor is dead, a voice whispered beside him. Dalinar turned and looked at Captain Caledon. He hadn't noticed the bridgeman walking down the steps behind him. Caledon took a deep breath, then looked at Dalinar. But I'll see what I can do. If this goes poorly, take care of my men. That scene, it gets me. Honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
And then he's still thinking of his men, always thinking of his men. But this is just like more, and yes, like you said, hero complex, but this is just more of Caledon, like,
well,
he will do what is right and he will do his duty even though he doesn't like Adeline. He doesn't want to do it, and he's more concerned about his men. He wants his men to be taken care of. If he's dead, hopefully...
That's not the side of the hero complex that bothers me. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
The side that bothers me is when like someone dies in a big battle that's inevitable, and he's just like I could have saved him. It's like, dude, no, it's gonna happen. But that's... Like, I understand grieving, but like taking that upon yourself
but also,
in all situations.
If your brother in arms goes down, it's not a poor depiction. Somebody would take that on as their responsibility.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. To the extent that he does is just like, anyway. Let's go back to the arena thing though, because I do enjoy that because it's his duty. Like, he's honor bound like to protect him at all costs, and he's like, well, I gotta go do this. Like, it's just, so I do love it. I do love it so much when he steps into that arena, and
me too.
It's so good.
Me too.
So good.
So I tend to not care about long, dragged out fight scenes, right? And Sanderson loves his fight scenes. He writes them well. He's very good at writing fight scenes, but he also really likes long ones.
Yeah.
And sometimes about halfway through, I'm ready to be done, and I start just kind of reading a lot faster. This is a fight scene. This is a arena battle scene that I was on the edge of my seat for every single word.
Yeah.
I love this scene.
Slow the audiobook down to 1 time speed instead of 1.2.
Okay. So I love it because so Caledon, he takes the guy down with just his spear, right?
Right.
And then he realizes, oh, I can use his helm. So he's like, give me your helm. He's like screaming it at the guy.
Yeah.
Takes the helm, uses it as a shield. And Caledon knows all I need to do is get these men off of Adeline so he can take them one by one. Because he knows that Adeline is a really skilled fighter. So he's doing his best to do that. All the mechanics of this fight are so interesting. Poor Renarin is just sitting in the corner crying.
Because we learn later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a rough go.
Yeah, anyway.
Oh, yeah. So then whenever he takes down the next guy, he's like, do you yield or do I get to kill my second shard?
Caledon,
bearer? Yeah. Oh, so many good scenes, so many good lines. So then Cal catches the blade, which
right.
you feel is pretty cheesy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it had just happened to Dalinar, and then Zyle explains it to him, how it's really hard to do, almost impossible, but it can happen. And then, lo and behold, Cal catches the blade, and like a couple scenes later, it's like, come on.
I mean, it needed to happen.
That's a little bit cheesy.
It is.
Yeah.
It needed to happen so he could hear the screaming, plot, grand old time. But
it is just a little cheesy.
Yeah. Then Adeline declares his boon. Caledon declares his.
Oh, Caledon.
Oh, Caledon.
Yeah. You messed...
I mean,
ruined it.
I don't blame him.
No.
But at the same time, it's just, I
mean, come on. The most ignorant of people would have understood that you don't also get to make a boon. Or get to request something. Like, you helped Adeline. It's Adeline's, like... you got caught up in the emotion, I guess, of everything.
Yes,
and then
I definitely think that's what it is. And I feel for him because it's so unfair. But at the same time, he should have known.
You have to remember your place to an extent. Like, I get it, but like, just be smart.
Yeah. We forgot to mention at the end of the battle when Adeline, his shard plate is completely depleted.
Oh.
And he's just like laying on the ground laughing.
Yep. Which is another really good depiction of emotion after something traumatic like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once again, there are a lot of accounts from people in war who, after a battle, they'll just start laughing. Mm-hmm. Or something happens to them where they almost get killed, and then they just start laughing. Because it's kind of that grim, dark humor where like, my head almost got blown off. Can you believe it? And then it's like, it's so good. It's such a good depiction of something like that. So something that I found was great.
Yeah. I appreciate it for different reasons, having not actually been there, but just appreciating, I guess because I've watched, Band of Brothers and other things like that with you. So I guess I see a lot of these stories that I've become attached to. I'm like, wow, that really does, it does happen. Oh, okay, so Wit visits him in jail. And we love Wit. I mean, no one doesn't. Who doesn't love, no commenters, well, actually, I don't love Wit.
Nope.
No one doesn't love Wit.
We reject it.
Comment deleted. He's so funny and insulting and ridiculous and wise.
Yeah.
Every scene he's in has you cracking up, but also has you wanting to listen to every word he says. Yeah. His wisdom, his stories, every scene he's in is a banger.
Hoyd is probably my favorite character of all time.
Is he?
I don't know. But I mean, he's Yeah,
he's one of my top side characters in the
every time he pops into a scene, it's just like, oh yes, you know it's gonna be a good scene because he's there.
So here's what I love is when Adeline and Caledon finally do get to talk after Caledon was imprisoned.
Yep.
And this is finally the moment. This deep into the book is finally the moment where Adeline trusts Cal and wants him to be, wants to treat him like an equal.
If a guy saves your life
5 times,
2 or 3 times, at that point you want to be friends with him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like there's
and that's when he's like, all right, he's not just a jerk who saved my life, so I owe him. He actually is someone that I want to have a relationship with.
Yeah.
Caledon clasped it. I'm sorry, he said, for ruining the plan. Bah! You didn't ruin it, Adeline said. Elhokar did that. You think he couldn't have simply ignored your request and proceeded, letting me expand on my challenges to Sadeas? He threw a tantrum instead, taking control of the crowd and pushing forward. Storming man. I love it. I love it. Caledon, he's noticed. Okay, sure. Okay, I messed up. I shouldn't have done it. I should have known better. Should have known I couldn't declare a boon to. And Adeline's like, it's not your fault.
Which,
Elhokar.
To me, was, like you said, it's the turning point in their relationship, at least for Adeline. But, like, to me, seeing that from Adeline as a character made me respect him and love him so much more at that point. Like,
absolutely.
The easy thing to do would be to be mad at Caledon and Elhokar both. Like, you both are idiots or whatever, but, like, he was mature enough to be like, it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
That was, he messed it up. And, I mean, in truth, yeah, he really could have. He really could have proceeded with it and ignored that, but he just got Elhokar's so childish and got caught up in that. It's not proper. And so then he threw a fit, and so I get it.
Yeah, and there's so much prejudice amongst this entire crew, right? Like, Adeline and Challan both look down on Caledon and crew because they're dark eyes. Caledon thinks that all light eyes are...
Sees the worst in every light eyes.
Yeah, well, he thinks that they are inherently bad, and he has reason. Yeah. Absolutely.
He does have good reason to.
He has reason to have this jaded sort of look at them.
Yeah.
But it's even, I think, really shown clear in that line when somebody mentions that Shallan's beautiful, and Caledon's like, she's a light eyes. And he's like, well, is that all that matters? He's like, yes. She's a light eye.
Gosh, there's so much good about his writing that shows when a character has been wronged or been through a lot of traumatic experiences, they a lot of times lose the ability to think pragmatically.
Yeah.
And it's just all based off of emotion. And you see that so much in his characters, and he does such a good job of writing that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, he does. So then Adeline tries to give him a shard plate and a shard blade. And this is when Caledon's like, great, here you go, Moash. And Adeline's like, I'm giving these to you. And he said, thank you. Moash will use them well. And Adeline's just like, I'm trying, this is peace offer. I'm trying to, this is a big deal. Do you not get what this would mean? You'd practically be a light eyes. You'd be on the same level as a light eyes. And he's like, what is wrong with you? And Caledon says, it's not out of spite. Adeline, those blades have killed too many people I love. I can't look at them. I can't touch them without seeing blood. You'd be light-eyed, Adeline whispered. Even if you didn't change your eye color, you'd count as one. Shard bearers are immediately of the 4th dawn. How do you say that?
Let me see. I've never actually seen the word. Yeah, dawn.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. You could challenge Amaram. Your whole life would change. I don't want my life to change because I've become a light eyes, Caledon said. I want the lives of the people like me, like I am now, to change. The gift is not for me, Adeline. I'm not trying to spite you or anyone else. I just don't want a shard blade.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that he's like, so Way of Kings, very beginning, he is in a higher position. He's a leader. He's incredible. And he unfairly gets taken down to this level that he's been at, and now where he is now, even still, it's still unfair. And instead of saying, this is my opportunity to rise up again, this is where I can finally leave my past behind me and get back to where I truly deserve to be, well, even higher than where he was at the beginning of Way of Kings. And his position isn't let me rise back up. His position is this social system that we have is wrong. I want to change it for myself, for my men, for everyone else in this position.
Yeah.
I don't like where we are. I want it to be fair without me having to become like a Light Eyes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different facets to that, because
I love
it's that
it.
I don't want to become part of the thing I actively hate and despise.
Right.
And Blades sicken me,
Yeah.
like, because there's, he has Syl and all that. So there's, I think mostly it's the whole, I don't want to be I don't want to be part of it, but
I love it. Shortly hereafter is when Adeline, he's all buddy-buddy with Caledon, and Caledon's reply is to still be,
a jerk.
It's just, he's a grump sometimes. So Adeline says, "You're good at military thinking for a bridge boy." Coincidentally, Caledon said, "You're good at not being obnoxious for a prince." "Thanks," Adeline said. "That was an insult, dear," Challan said. And then Adeline, he's like, "Oh, well."
He goes, "Oh, it was?"
Yeah. He goes, "What?" Adeline said, "It was?" Yeah, so then Adeline scampers off and starts hanging out with me.
Scampers off. He's like a little bunny. Just scamper off.
Starts hanging out with the other bridgemen. And Caledon, I love this because we didn't talk about this yet, but Challan. I love Challan. I think she's very relatable, especially, let's take a minute to talk about Challan. Shallan's powers of being able to change her appearance and take on another and be able to impersonate someone, like, these powers are cool. And she uses them well, and she's daggum clever in some of these situations that she's in. So props to Challan. Also, Shallan's insecurities, and I love the way she's like, well, yeah, this dark-haired woman, she can show her left hand, but Challan would never do that.
Right.
She's brilliant, right? She's really genuinely smart. She's genuinely talented. I really like her character, and her insecurities as well, I really appreciate, because I guess they come out more in the next book, but just this this uncertainty about who she is, where's the performance end, where do I begin? Right. I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to. So I love her. However,
okay,
I mentioned this in my Way of Kings review. Challan acts like she just thinks she's so daggum clever. She's always got a quip. She's always witty. And a lot of people in the comments said that they think that I'm supposed to perceive her that way. I'm supposed to see that she's just performing. She's trying too hard. It's not supposed to be that she's clever on page. But hard disagree. Yeah. Challan.
I would disagree with that too.
There are so many times where Challan says something quippy and witty, and then people fall over themselves to tell her how witty she is.
It's explained in the thing. Like, it's just natural, like, for her to just absentmindedly say a quip to someone, and she's like, "Ooh, I probably shouldn't have said that."
And then people are like, "Ha! You're so clever!"
Well, and then even with Yasna, is like, that's a problem. You need to not just insult people off the cuff without thinking about it. You have to think about your words. Mm-hmm. And
just being witty isn't good enough. You have to, use the right time and the right
it's place. Even said, like, that's an issue for her. Is she'll just do it without even thinking.
Well, but that's not the argument that people had. The argument was, like, this is just her defense mechanism, and, like, we're supposed to see it as, okay, you're trying too hard. But
I don't think it is her trying too hard. It's just something that's just naturally, she just does it. It's not, she's not trying to do it, I don't think.
Well, okay, I see what you're saying, but I don't think that's what the commenters meant. I think that they just meant, like, it's a defense mechanism for her. Like, she's compensating, and we're supposed to see that. While that's true, people do fall all over themselves to tell her how clever and witty she is, so I think we are also supposed to see her as clever and witty, and sometimes she is, and sometimes I'm just like, oh my golly, we get it. You're smart. Okay. And anyway, I appreciate Caledon here.
Not as smart as Yasna is... told, like, we're bashed over the head so many times about how brilliant Yasna is.
That's very true. Okay, Caledon says to her, "Are you that desperate to prove how clever you are?" And man, I appreciate that line.
Yeah.
Because I feel that way sometimes. But I actually love the scene more for Challan because of how she's calling out Caledon. She says, "Perhaps I'm merely annoyed that you're taking advantage of Adeline." "Advantage?" Caledon said. "Because I called him obnoxious? You deliberately said it in a way you expected he wouldn't understand, to make him look like a fool. He's trying very hard to be nice to you. So then Caledon digs in his heels and he's like, he calls me bridge boy. And, we all know that it's affectionate, but I understand how it doesn't feel affectionate to
Adeline at this point, it's endearing, but to Caledon, it's just plain condescending.
Yes,
so,
which is understandable.
Yeah.
It's understandable, but he's also just being a grump at this point, and Challan's pointing it out. And Challan then goes on to say, oh yeah, Adeline's so hard to get along with. And she gestures to him, like shooting the breeze with the other bridgemen. Yeah. She's like, he's always stomping around, moody and grumpy. That sounds just like him. And she's talking about Caledon.
Yeah. And then Adeline's over there laughing and carrying on with all the other bridgemen.
And I love that because as amazing as Caledon is, he needs to be knocked down. Like, he needs to be told, hey, Adeline's trying. Maybe you could start too.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really the beginning of Caledon starting to not want to punch them in the face when they're having a good time.
Right. Yeah, it was just part of him. It's part of him having to heal and part of him having to try to get over everything.
Yes, and that's one thing that I really appreciate about this is that all three of these characters have distinct flaws. And all three of these characters, I feel like I love their flaws as much as I love what makes them great, because their flaws are so realistic for their characters and their backstories, and it leaves them with a lot of room to growth, which is just that much more satisfying. And seeing them in this really awful position in the beginning, not fitting well at all, and then growing to the point of actually camaraderie, and then all the opportunity for growth even after that, because they still hold their prejudices and they still have their issues. And I love them for those issues. So they go into the chasm. I love this because Caledon sucks in Stormlight, and that's how he survives the fall. Challan survives the fall because she's a soul caster.
She's not a soul caster.
Well, that's what she says when she's talking to Dalinar. She says, Yasna didn't just use the soul caster, she was one.
But
and then she goes on to say, I think I am too.
Yeah, but they're not. That's because they have limited knowledge of what they're a Radiant, specifically a light weaver. Like, they're not actually a soul caster. Like, a soul caster is but you know what I mean.
You're right. I'm using the terminology that she used, but you're light weaver.
I'm that person in the comments.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So anyway, they both survived the fall for their separate reasons, but then later on in the book, when Shallan's talking to Dalinar, she even says, I survived the fall because of what I am.
Yeah.
And somehow I saved Caledon too. And she doesn't realize that Caledon saved himself because they have so little knowledge of each other and their specific abilities at this point. So then they get through the chasm with a lot of grumpiness on Caledon's part and a lot of stubborn optimism on Shallan's part. And then switches to Caledon being optimistic because he realizes that they're not going to die. They have a sweet scene in the chasm. But my favorite part in the chasm is I love when Caledon says that he actually envies people like her. She's like, people like me. And he says, people who don't understand pain. So she says, she turned to him. The crushing guilt, she said, of being powerless, of wishing they hurt you instead of those around you, of screaming and scrambling and hating as those you love are ruined, popped like a boil. And you have to watch their joy seeping away while you can't do anything. They break the ones you love, and not you. And you plead, can't you beat me instead? Yes, he whispered. She nodded, holding his eyes. Yes, it would be nice if nobody in the world knew those things, Caledon Stormblessed. I agree with everything I have. Ooh!
So, yeah.
Ooh.
The grand assumptions, once again, that someone made about Challan. Tin did it, now Caledon is doing it. And it's like, boy, you have no idea.
Because she's constantly deflecting. She's constantly, with her quitty, whippy self and with her her gritted teeth optimism. Yeah. She's constantly projecting an image, which is why Caledon doesn't like her, because he can see how much she projects. And he can see that what she's presenting isn't her most authentic self.
But then at that point is when he realizes, wow, you've clearly been through the ringer, something horrible has happened to you, and you can still smile like Tien. And that's when he kind of realized, dang, I kind of have you wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And We'll get to her. We'll get to her backstory.
Like Tien.
Like Tien. I know. But
yeah,
I don't care, you naysayers, about this love triangle. It is a distinct love triangle. In fact, let's just skip to it.
It is true.
Just gonna go to it.
Because even when they're going off to war, Caledon is hoping she, like, as she's riding with Adeline, that she would look up at him, and she doesn't, and he's disappointed. Like, there's so many.
And when they get out of the chasm and Challan walks off with Adeline, and Caledon's irritation and frustration is right back because he's like, I wanted her to walk off with me.
Yep.
And then
it says because he genuinely likes Adeline at that point. He's like, is because I like Adeline, but I just want to.
But I kind of want to punch him in the face again.
Yeah.
And then we have this line from Challan, this line of thinking after they get out of the chasm. That was all right. She liked Adeline as he was. He was kind, noble, and genuine. It didn't matter that he wasn't brilliant or whatever Caledon was. She couldn't even define it. So there. Passionate, with an intense, smoldering resolve. A leashed anger that he used because he had dominated it. A certain tempting arrogance, not the haughty pride of a bright lord. Instead, the secure, stable sense of determination that whispered that no matter who you were or what you did, you could not hurt him, could not change him. He was like the wind and rocks were. Challan completely missed what Adeline said next. She blushed. What was that?
There you go. Mystery solved.
Mystery solved. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we've got a couple of, like, more minor things that I want to hit on because they're great. When they get out of the chasm, and Dalinar says, your men waited for you, Stormblessed. They skipped meals, pulled triple shifts. I half think they would have sat there at the head of the chasms through the high storm itself if I hadn't intervened. They're good men, Caledon said. It's more than that. They knew you would return. What is it they understand about you that I don't?
Yeah.
Caledon met his eyes. I've been searching for you, haven't I? Dalinar said. All this time, without seeing it. Caledon looked away. No, sir. Maybe once, but I'm not what you see. And not what you think. I'm sorry.
So, to me, that is, like, especially the first time reading this through, it was so frustrating because it was like, finally, we're at a point where, like, you're what I've been looking for, and it's like, nope. Maybe, but not anymore. And it's like, no!
Because he had just in the chasm.
We've gone almost 2 whole books waiting for this moment.
Nearly 2,000 pages.
Yes. And then it's like, well, at this point, nope, Sail's left me. I broke my vows. And
yeah, it's like Sanderson's catchphrase. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Gonna make you wait longer.
Just do it already. But yeah. It's frustrating on some levels.
Yeah,
it's like,
so we skipped that. Caledon has lost his powers. Syl has left him.
Yeah.
And then, first of all...
Well, he almost basically killed her.
Yeah.
In quotes. Because you can't really kill a Spartan.
Yeah, so his men waited for him. More amazing bridge crew. Just little things. But I love them. And then, then Dalinar's like, you're it. Moment we've been waiting for. But no.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Too bad.
Challan has a shard blade. We,
Found that out?
Found that out in the chasm as well. And that's quite a thing. Should we just skip to that? Or should we...
I don't know. What's next?
Next is the assassination.
Oh.
Or not the assassination. When the assassin comes. When Szeth shows up. And there's a huge fight. A lot of grief. A lot of trauma. I love several scenes that Adeline has and all that. This big battle that I kind of just want to skim over and get to more interesting things. But, I mean, Szeth. You had a lot to say about Szeth last time we recorded this.
Yeah... So, I've heard that some people just think he's like this murderous, heartless, like he's terrible, he's the worst. Like,
which I don't know how you can come to that conclusion.
I just want to see more of his backstory, how he got to where he is, because there's so much there's a lot of generalities that we know about him, but we don't know the details. So, like, I want to know because there's clearly something. He's clearly forced into whatever he's doing, and
absolutely. We're told over and over again that he is bound, and he has no choice, and he hates it. He wants to die.
Yeah, he's hoping on every assassination attempt that someone will best him and kill him to end this because he hates it so much, but he can't. Like, he'll actually get mad at people he's fighting for not being good enough to kill him. And it's like,
well, when he's resurrected, he's mad about it.
Yeah, he's like, I should be dead. No, I wanted to be dead. So he's clearly not this, just pure evil person. There's clearly way more going on with him that we don't know yet. That there are a lot of details that I want to learn.
I do too.
Like we get some information, but we don't. There's a lot of stuff that So I want to know more.
I'm desperate for more of Szeth.
Yeah.
He does have Nightblood now.
Yep, that's a thing, and that's something I forgot. And when I got to it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right.
Yes.
He's getting Nightblood.
Yes, which for anybody who's watching this, who's only read Words of Radiance and hasn't moved forward, I definitely recommend taking a break and going to Warbreaker, because you get a lot of Nightblood in
First
Warbreaker.
Sanderson book I ever read or listened to.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. That was
you
a couple of years ago.
No,
nope,
you did listen to the audiobook.
Yeah. I've never physically read any of Sanderson's stuff.
Okay.
All audiobook.
Oh, and then Dalinar and the Stormfather have a chat.
Yeah.
And Dalinar... Oh, let me just get to it. Oh, so I guess Shallan... Oh, okay, so Shallan's thing actually came first before the Dalinar Stormfather thing.
Yeah.
So we finally get to Shallan's backstory. The
full picture.
Oh my god. So we've known where her PTSD is coming from. She had a very abusive father. And it has...
At this point, we even learned that she killed her father.
Right. Yes. And even that scene. Oh my goodness, the trauma that this woman has been through. No wonder she has issues.
Singing that lullaby to him as she strangles him.
Nope, don't like that. Oh man. It's hard. Her backstory is
brutal.
Rough. But it's not over. Her mom...
But wait, there's more.
...tried to kill her, so she had to kill her mom. Her dad took the blame for it, and that drove him crazy. And that's what turned him into the
monster
man that we've known all this time.
So Shallan had to kill both of her parents.
Shallan had to kill both of her parents, and she, I'm sure, feels very responsible for the descent of her father.
Yeah. And that provides us with a more context and reasoning as to why she wanted to bring him back. Because all along, she's trying to know, I think we can save him. I think we can turn him around. Like, I think he's getting better. She has this optimism, even though he's like beating servants and stuff. She's always just, and to me, as a reader or listener, I'm frustrated because it's like, Shallan, this dude's a monster.
See,
she's always just like, but I think he's getting better. And it's like, of course she wants that because it's her fault and she feels guilty. Yeah. It's so terrible.
I was never frustrated. I forgot about this as well.
Yeah.
And I was never frustrated with her because she's a kid and she's been through a lot of abuse. And so I don't blame her for not seeing clearly, right? Yeah. But once you know that she shoulders the responsibility, it's not her fault, but she feels it.
Yeah.
For her father's descent. And so she desperately wants to bring him back. Man, it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's tough, man. That's the thing. One thing that I love about Sanderson is that he writes things so that you get the full impact of emotion without him crossing over into like just being brutal with his depictions of things.
Yeah.
It's like you get the full impact of how difficult these characters' lives are without having it shoved down your throat. You know?
Which I think makes it even just more impactful for me, at least. That's just how I...
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan of grimdark, so for me, once an author goes into grimdark, except for Joe Abercrombie, he's just can't be touched. But once an author goes there and they do cram it down my throat, a lot of times I'm just like, I take a step back and I'm like, shut down, turn off, and I don't... So then I detach myself from it. But this kind of writing... where it's like, I get the full emotion of it without having to watch every single detail of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does it in a way that is extremely impactful without having to be super detailed and overdo it.
Yeah, definitely. So then you get this scene. He lied to protect me. I know. The secret destroyed him. It destroyed our entire family.
Oh, she's talking to Pattern. Yeah.
I know. I hate you, she whispered, staring into her mother's dead eyes. I know, Pattern buzzed softly. Eventually you will kill me, and you will have your revenge. I don't want revenge. I want my family. Challan wrapped her arms around herself and buried her head in them, weeping as the illusion bled white smoke, then vanished, leaving her in an empty room. Ouch!
Yeah, that's tough.
So not Challan. So Adeline kills Sadeas.
Oh, right.
So you didn't love the way this went down the first time you read it.
And it's not that I didn't love it. I just didn't. I was shooketh. I was what? Like
shooketh?
Yeah, I was shooketh.
Okay.
Because the whole time this is our main antagonist, and there's all this political intrigue and maneuvering and posturing
and reasoning why they can't kill him up to this
point. There's all kinds of good reasonings. They have this society that you can't just murder a high prince, even if you're another, that would cause war and dissension and all this stuff, and then Sadeas' betrayal, and all of that, and then it's resolved just almost abruptly in a dark tunnel with no one around, and he's just like, oh, I'm gonna kill you now. Like, they fought for a little while, but...
I love the honesty of that, though, of just... Adeline's had it. He's done. And so it's just like, I can't do this for all the reasons I haven't been able to do it before, but I don't even care at this point. And so it's just the brutal honesty of not making a big show of it, not making it end in this big elaborate thing of just, I'm done. Do it.
It does make a lot of sense.
Try to sneak away and get away with it the best you can.
It's just, stab him, throw the shard blade out the window, and then run away. Yeah. Like, it's so just, I don't know, but...
It's just dirty. Like, it's not, not this big performance. It's just a dirty death. And I actually think that Sadeas deserves a death like that.
Well, yeah, but and it makes sense as far as the timing of it and everything that's happening. The society that they know is collapsing and crumbling, and things have been changing. And I think as far as the timing goes, it makes sense, because Adeline gets to a point where he realizes, like, wow, we're fighting for civilization and the world at this point, and he is just going to be a wrench in the gears. Like, he's going to screw up everything. He has to be taken out. Mm-hmm. So I think there's the emotional element of he hates him because he's betrayed him and he's terrible, but also we can't proceed with trying to save civilization if he's going to be getting in the way and trying to take down my father. And he just openly admitted to me that he's going to try to kill him. And yeah, so I understand the timing, and it makes sense from a, like, things are different now perspective, but it still just seems so abrupt. Oh, here we go. You're dead. Throw the shard blade out the window. Let's run away. Like, it's just, okay, well, there we go.
Yeah. And then Dalinar gets to chat with the Stormfather. So Dalinar knows the second oath. He says it very well. Stormfather finally said, "These words are accepted." Dalinar smiled. "I will not be a simple sword to you," the Stormfather warned. "I will not come as you call, and you will have to divest yourself of that monstrosity that you carry. You will be a Radiant with no shards. I will do what I must," Dalinar said.
Yeah.
So I don't, like we said, I don't really remember what happens in Oathbringer, but I love that scene, and I can't wait to see what that means.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of details in Oathbringer. It's the one book out of the three I probably remember the least about. So yeah, I'm with you. I can't wait to see.
Mm-hmm. And then finally the book ends with Wit and Yesna.
Ah, yeah.
So how do you feel about that resurrection?
I mean, I guess I was fine with it. To me, once you understand Shadesmar and all that stuff, and you understand what she is, it makes perfect sense. So yeah, you have a lot of opinions on it.
I do, because resurrection, fake out deaths, one of my least favorite things ever in all of media, not just books.
Yeah.
But I think that it can be done well, and I think this is an instance where it was done well, because it served such a purpose. I think that 99% of the time that I read about a resurrection or a fake-out death, it's the author trying to use a cheap trick to, like, I want the emotion of a death, but I don't want to commit, so I'm going to pretend that it's a death, or I'm going to kill them, but then bring them back 3 pages later, so that you can experience some false emotion, but I don't have to have any consequences. And, like, to me, that's just, you're just stealing emotions from me, and now I don't trust you, and the next time a death comes, I'm not going to believe you, and then you're probably going to steal those emotions from me, too, because they're actually going to be dead, but I didn't feel it because you lied to me before about this other death. And to me, like, trying to steal emotions from your readers because you can't commit is just the most frustrating thing as a reader to experience.
So you don't like fake-out deaths?
Don't like them.
Okay.
But this one, I actually thought was done well because not only does it actually work for the plot, right? Like, it makes sense. And most of it making sense we don't get until the next book. And I'm really fuzzy on all the reasonings. But I know that it makes sense. But the other thing is that it served a great purpose. It didn't just fix itself 3 pages later. It was 800 pages later.
Yeah.
And the book would have been different without it, right? So it makes sense for the story. It's not just because plot needed to happen. It works.
Yeah.
But also, imagine if Yasna was there the whole... Yasna, how do you say it?
Yasna.
Yasna. Imagine if Yasna was there the entire time. Imagine Challan hiding behind her and being her number 2 person instead of having to step out and figure things out herself. Instead of being able to sneak around like she did, having to figure out her own solutions for things, being coached by Yasna about how to date Adeline instead of just having to be honest about who she is.
Yeah.
The situations that Challan is put in, her situation with Navani and the relationship that she gained with her, she couldn't have gained if Yasna was there, being Navani's person the entire time. Like, there's so many elements to what Yasna would have been if she was there the whole time. But because she's not, our characters were able to grow. We're able to move forward in a way that they couldn't have done were she there.
Yeah.
So it made sense for the plot. It served a great purpose. And there were emotional consequences, you know, like Navani not believing her daughter's dead and then having to accept it.
And shunning Challan for a long time.
Challan, yeah, because she's connected to the death, the guilt that Challan carried about it. I do think... one complaint that I have that I know isn't even a fully valid complaint is when Challan is talking to Dalinar and she's saying, I watched her. She didn't just use the soulcaster, she was one, right? That scene. And then the next page, she says, me too. Also, I'm probably the strongest person here. You could stick a spear through me and I probably wouldn't die.
Yeah.
So why are you so sure that Yasna's dead? I know that there's a lot to it, right? Like you saw her dead, you sunk the ship.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why you think she's dead, and I get that. But I feel like there should have been a shadow of a doubt.
Maybe, but yeah, you're right, probably. But yeah, I'm with you, like, or kind of where, you know, she sunk the ship. Yasna was on the ship. Like, you can't. How do you heal yourself from drowning? At the very least, with us, you know, I don't know.
Right.
I kind of get it though.
I think I just would have been more satisfied if she was sure that Yasna was dead and was telling them, like, no, I saw her, I sunk the ship, she's gone. Like, she could have kept all that dialogue, but in her mind had this, like, maybe not. Because I feel like if you know that she can heal herself and you know how strong you are, then I don't know. I understand why she doesn't, but I wish she did.
Yeah. Wasn't she also stabbed through the heart?
I don't remember where she was stabbed.
She was stabbed, I know that much, but yeah. I thought like she walked in and they like stabbed her right through the heart as she walked in.
Actually, fun little anecdote. Sanderson didn't write it that way the first time through, and then his beta readers all came back saying, "Oh, Yasna's dead. That's a fake out death. She's coming back." So Sanderson rewrote that scene to make her look even more dead. So that the readers would be like, "Oh, she's dead as every dead thing that has ever died." And he regrets doing that. He wishes that he would have left it the way he wrote it the first time.
Really? Mm-hmm. Huh. Without her being stabbed, how would...
I don't know.
How'd she die?
I don't know how the original scene was written.
Huh. Interesting. I'd like to know that.
I don't know. Anyway, this has been our long discussion on the Words of Radiance.
I don't know if you can call it a review, but it's just talking about it, I guess.
Just gush.
I mean, to me, it's a 5-star book. Just like just like Way of Kings and Mistborn. Everything I've read by Sanderson, I've loved. So
you haven't read Steelheart yet.
Warbreaker, I probably would have given 4 stars.
No, you gave it 5 stars when you read it.
Now that I've read all of his other, like Mistborn and Stormlight and all this stuff, it's like, okay, Warbreaker's good, but it's not like on the level of it.
I love Warbreaker. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. I hope somebody watches it to the end. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I post reviews on off days. Be sure to continue chatting with us in the comments. I'll see you guys